Welcome to the Daily MBA, where business wisdom is served fresh and fast, straight from one of the top MBA programs in the world. I'll give you summaries of my lectures and readings, as well as the most important insights gained from an MBA, so you can apply all of this knowledge in every business. Let's get started. In today's episode, we're going to start talking about something very important, and it's budgeting. And so budgeting is a good practice that many companies do. But today, we're going to see how useful it actually is to have a budget, or if you should be flexible enough to be changing your budget all the time. But so what's important about budgets, it's that they are going to be both something to plan, but something to control in organizations, because you're going to be developing an objective and then testing out your organization's capacity to meet it. So the purpose is going to be, of course, communicating specialized knowledge, coordinating activities, giving decision rights, controlling behaviors, and maybe even motivating, evaluating, and rewarding performance. So budgeting is going to have many functions, and also it may also have many benefits, especially around strategy, communication, and performance evaluation, because it's going to make everyone plan ahead and then define objectives for evaluating their own performance. And this is also creating like a warning system in case you find potential problems in the way. You may report them in time and call your manager and tell him or her that you're not going to be able to meet those goals. And this is going to motivate everyone in the organization to meet the planned objectives, which is good because, of course, it puts everyone to think about the future of the company and decide the best and optimal allocation of resources. But budgets aren't perfect because they can also be pressure devices. So also, they are going to be a way of having conflict arising in your different departments, so either disputes around resource allocation or some department blaming each other if things didn't happen the way it should have been. And this even may sometimes lead to waste, which is something that I've seen in some corporations. They say, well, this is the budget. If we don't spend it, we will lose it. So sometimes it's not really that you want to spend that money, you're just spending it because it's part of the budget. And so managers may find that their estimations about costs were wrong, and this is going to lead to some mistakes. So what I want to talk about today will be the different types of budgets that you may encounter and how we can look to avoid all of these problems that come around budgeting. So first, let's start with the 5 different types of budget. The most popular in industries, it's going to be static budgeting, which will use historical data to add or subtract a percentage. So let's say I'm going to take all of the important information from last year, from sales, costs, and then I'm going to add 3% increase, 5% increase, 10% increase. This is usually going to be how it's done, so historical data plus adding or subtracting a specific percentage. This one is the most important in industries, but then the most important for governments is going to be value proposition budgeting. And this one is going to assume that no line item should be included unless it provides value. So we're only going to be including stuff that is adding value, and if it doesn't, it won't be included in the budget. There are other 3 types of budget. One of them is called zero-based budgeting, where everything starts at 0 and then you have to justify every single decision that you're adding to the budget. The second one would be performance budget, where you're emphasizing the past performance. And then the last one would be activity-based budget, which will state the goals and will move backwards depending on the activity that you want to achieve. So those are going to be the 5 types of budget that we have. One popular one in industry, one popular one in government, and then the 3 that I just stated. So now that you know all of the types of budgets, the next thing that you should do is identify the 5 types of persons that are going to be tricky when you are playing your budget games. And so this ones, according to a Harvard article, are going to be the sandbagger, the magician, the loan agent, the visionary, and the hostage taker. So let's understand what each one of them means. Sandbaggers are usually going to be this type of people that arrive at budget meetings with plans that are less ambitious than the ones that they know they could fulfill. And so they, at the end of the year, are going to be overperforming and delivering even more, and they will appear as heroes because initially they were saying that there was a lower goal than the one they could actually achieve. This one is very difficult to spot, and it's often challenging, but it's good if you can identify within your company. The second type would be the magician. And so the magician is going to know things about their business, such as the customer's wants or a key departure of a manager. And so these things that they know are not going to appear in the budget, but they can conceal those realities and divert the attention to try to win their funding. So in this way, they find it kind of easy to manipulate the numbers and also do some magic. That's why they're called the magicians. The third type would be the loan agent. So loan agents usually claim that they shouldn't conform to other conventions because they are different and they are unique and they demand special treatment. Their department is special, it's different. It requires an exemption from all of the cost-cutting requirements. So these are going to be people that think they should be treated differently. The fourth type is going to be the visionary. And visionary is going to be kind of the opposite of a sandbagger. This person wants to do it all, and they want to revolutionize the industry and bring all of these developments. And probably now they're talking about AI implementation in every process in the company. But all of this won't produce feasible numbers. And so these people might be claiming that it's a very big initial investment but that it will pay in the long term. And so that's why their underperformance should be tolerated because it's part of a big plan. So this is what's called the visionary. And lastly, we're also going to have hostage takers. And so hostage takers are going to insist that they can deliver major and more immediate results than other departments, and so they expect executives to be on their plan. And they want to have most of the share because they believe that they can be the one with more impact. So maybe as I was talking about all of these different types, you could imagine people either in your company or in previous companies that have been doing this type of behavior. But so this is going to be very bad for budgeting because as you can see, it will imply that many people are going to be giving bad information or misleading in their budgets just in order to make themselves better. So what can we do about it? First step would be just identifying who is going to be any of these types, if you have. Then the second thing that you could do would be creating a more participative approach. So the more accurate the information that you can gather, the higher the decision quality. But be careful because there may always be a risk of bias. And so when you have everyone participating, this is also going to be very hard to manage. So it will depend on every company, every industry, if you can include people in their budgeting or no. But this is usually going to be one of the methods that is going to help. A second method that would help to fix this slack would be that you shouldn't just use the budget as a control mechanism at all, because all of these issues that I was just talking to you about are going to raise because you're being evaluated on a performance of target. And so if you're evaluating your employees on other stuff that's not only their target, maybe they won't be pushed into having those behaviors that affect the budgeting. One last and final step that you should consider in order to improve your budgeting techniques would be that you may want to cross-train your employees, rotate managers, and promote internally to try to spread this specialized knowledge more widely. Because if you have people that have been in different areas, they're going to all know how it works and how it should be. So now, after we already tried fixing all of the bad things about budgeting, we are left with the good things. So how do we start a budget? in companies, the master budget will always start with sales. And this is hard because sales are going to be the part that you can't control, but from sales, you're going to derive everything else. Here, then in your budget, you should include your operating budget, where you're covering all of the day-to-day operating activities, and you focus on the short-term control, but also you may want to do a capital budget for the long term, where you have capital expenditures and you want to be more focused on the long-term control. Operational budget will be the one that can help businesses plan their day-to-day activities, but capital budgets will be the ones that allow them to plan for the future. So I think it is beneficial for your company to do both, one short-term and one long-term. Now, another thing that you should consider are the standards. So how much quantity and costs should be used? A standard is going to be a unit amount or a per unit cost, technically, and the budget is going to be the total amount of the price standards and the total amount of the quality standards. And so now that you have all of this, you could create your budget and you can start then comparing yourself against this budget. What we're going to be studying in my next episode is what happens when you actually sell. How can you compare yourself to that budget, and if needed, how can you improve it or change it in order to be more accurate? This is going to be called a variance analysis, and it is going to be useful when you have the capacity to have a flexible budget. So make sure to stay tuned, share this episode with your friends who want to learn about business, and also give me a review if you like the content that I'm creating. I'll see you next week to keep learning about business.